4th, 2024.
Service Committee meeting members in attendance, Aaron Sharrock, did it twice now. Zion Hickman, Chris Moretz, Chair. Call to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Public participation up first. Seeing none, moving on to approving the minutes for March.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 21st, 2024, regular service committee meeting.
I'll second.
Aaron Sharrock first, Zion Hickman second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Good job.
Presentation of boiler advisories from Jeff Ernsberger. Man, I'm having John, excuse me. Got dry mouth.
That's what we're blaming.
I was thinking Jeff later.
John Ernsberger, City of Bucyrus Water Distribution Foreman. It's been a long time, and people have been talking on Facebook about boil advisories this and boil advisories that, and taking a poll on how many days, on how long it's going to take till the next one, and so on and so forth. And I just think the public needed to be a little educated on boil advisories. As you can see on my spreadsheet that I made, prior to 2017, anything was a boil advisory. If there was a depressurization, which consists of, according to the EPA, anything below 20 psi in the water system, it was a depressurization. It was automatic boil advisory. About 2000, it was either 2018 or 2019. They came out with 4 different types of water leaks. Type 1, 2, 3, and 4. Type 4 being the worst, type 1 being the not so bad. But a type 4 is what they consider catastrophic failure with widespread depressurization, contamination of intrusion, and any kind of failure to meet a criteria of Class 3. A Class 3 is considered a loss of positive pressure at the repair site, depressurization adjacent to the repair, an uncontrolled shutdown, signs of possible contamination, intrusion, and a failure to complete the event response for a Type 2. Now, what they consider an uncontrolled shutdown is something if we've had water mains that'll blow big enough to you can park a car in the ground. We have to shut it down right away because we're losing water in the tower. That's an uncontrolled shutdown. We can't do anything about it. I'm not going to put anybody in a hole to fix it live at that point. So it's just common sense. But so that's considered an uncontrolled shutdown. A Type 2 is a controlled component repair, meaning that if we dig down, we excavate the ground, we can dig around the pipe with the water that is coming out, and we can get down below the pipe, cut the pipe out of the bad section out, or repair it without any intrusion, and we could get down to it, shut it down. As long as the water and the soil is below the pipe, then we can shut it down. That's a Type 2, and there's no signs of intrusion. Then you have a Type 1, which it's a controlled pipe repair. It's good enough you can fix it live. Now with these 4 different types, a Type 4 and a Type 3, you have to issue a boil advisory. It's automatic. You can't. There's no way around it. Type 1 and 2, boil advisories are not issued. They don't have to be issued, but you have to take when the repair is fixed. We have to flush the water main, flush the valves out. We take a chlorine sample. If the chlorine samples are high enough, then we don't have to issue a boil advisory. We can pack up and go home. No boil advisory is issued. Everything's fine. And And I don't think there's enough people out there that understand these four types that have come about recently with the EPA. But as you can see there, and I think a lot of people too are uneducated on the fact that there's different things besides omni-fiber hitting our water main or just a simple water main break. We have the leaks which happen, it's just a fact of life. Infrastructure is going to break. We have contractor hits, which everybody knows that we've had several of those in town lately. We have contractor scheduled, which means that a lot of times sewer has to be at a certain grade, water doesn't. So if the water's in the way of the sewer being put in, then it's a scheduled shutdown. We tell people in advance, and typically a lot of the contractors are really good about doing a type 2, so we don't have to issue boil advisories, but things happen, and you can see intrusion, water get in, dirt, anything gets in the pipe, then we have to issue a boil advisory. It becomes a type 3. We have things that we schedule on our own, for example, hydrant repairs, valve repairs, things like that. Then we have hydrant or valve repairs or replacements. Bonnet bolts on a valve will start leaking, and then we have to fix it. So we go down and fix it. Sometimes we don't know what it is, so we do shut it down. Sometimes we do. We have an idea of what it is, so we dig down and we can classify that as a type 2 or even a 1 if we can. Service lines can be a tricky thing. Contractors hit service lines. We hit service lines if we're digging up a water main. We might hit a service line or anything like that, the gas company, things of that nature. North Robinson tower issues. We've had some tower issues in the past with North Robinson, which I consider them catastrophic because it was a widespread failure. And then we have type 2 and type 1, which are all up there, and then of course we have the total for the particular year. And as you can see, 2022 was not a very good year for us, as we had a lot of different things happen that year. So I hope I explained it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I can make copies of things for you. All this stuff is from the EPA as far as boil advisories go, and it's just something we can't help. It's just I try not to issue boil advisories if I can help it, because it creates more work for us, because we have to take chlorine or bacteria samples, take them to the plant. If so many houses are out of water, I have to pull 2 samples. We have after action reports to do. Sometimes if they're bad enough, we have to call the EPA. If it's in the middle of the night, there's been several times in North Robinson where I had to call the EPA hotline to get their recommendation on things that need to be done. And to cover my butt, I get those things in emails and I put them in my daily logbook. So there's a lot more to this issue and boil advisories than what people think. It's not something that I just do it just to get my kicks off of. I'd prefer not to do them at all, but things happen and that's just the way life is, and we move on. But if there's any questions, I can take them at this time.
No, thank you very much.
Yep.
Oh, wait. It's a nice gentleman in the back.
Landon?
Do you think there's a misconception that every time you issue a boil advisory, it's citywide? And a lot of the times they may not pay attention to the text of the boil advisory itself for the specific area that's affected?
I think there is. I think it was 2 years ago the EPA they came out, we had our own letter, and that's what we put in the newspaper, and it just basically said a boil advisory, and that was it. Well, the EPA in their infinite wisdom they decided they want to come out with their own letter and make it more complicated. I think it's 2 pages long, and you have to tell exactly where it was at, which we always do. We tell where it was at, and I think Landon's right. I think there's some people that they don't read the whole thing. They just see boil advisory. Oh, it's for the whole city, so I'm on a boil advisory. And in fact, I was over in Nevada yesterday or the day before, and somebody was talking to me about it, and they said, well, do the boil advisories in Bucyrus affect us over here? I said, no, they don't affect Nevada whatsoever. They're just in a certain area. What we do is we tell them from this block from here to here, and we try to be as simple as we can. And if people can't read that, I don't know what to tell them. I mean, but I think that is a big misconception in the boil advisories.
I can tell you just from like a resident's point of view, and I've gotten many boil advisories. I live over on All Miller Drive, but it's always for the same thing when I get boil over advisories, and it's for sewage overflow. So where does that fall in on the issues list? It's like sewage overflow is the reason.
We don't issue boil advisories for sewage overflows.
So what's that from? I don't know. It says from sewage overflow.
It's a CSO.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, from the CSOs? I don't take care of that. That's a Jeff Dunn question.
How did you receive that?
I thought it was on the website, and then the text messages that I get. There's boil advisory for sewage overflow.
Jim, right.
It's likely just a notification that the CSOs are activated.
Right, cool.
It's raining, so don't go into the.
Right, I
That
agree,
doesn't
but
affect
regardless,
the
there's gotta be
drinking
more
water.
people like me that I don't drink the Bucyrus city water because I think that I'm drinking fecal matter. And I don't let my kids drink it either, and so there's a lot of people that have that fear, like, right? It's like, you're gonna get sick if you drink this, and people are bathing in it too, water absorbs into your skin and
Right.
into your body, and everything that's in it, including that chlorine and everything like that soaks into the human body when you
Right.
bathe in it too. You can't boil your shower water.
Well, I can
I mean, you can. but
I
it
can
doesn't
guarantee you
count.
that you're not drinking fecal matter.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, if you get that hit, like, or whatever, even if people don't know what it is, then that's what they're gonna think, so.
Right.
I can tell you that's just from my
Right.
perspective.
And I wish people would read the entire thing, and I actually tried the letter that the EPA gave me, I didn't like it. I told them I didn't like it. I told them I'd rather not use it. They said, you're going to use it anyway. But I altered some words, kind of took out some sentences that just were redundant or stupid, just in my opinion, to be there. I resubmitted to the EPA, asked them if this was sufficient in my changes, and they agreed with me and said that the letter was fine. So the letter that you see is not the actual letter that the EPA wants us to put out, but they allowed me to change what I did, the changes I did make.
How many different ways do you put out boiler advisory alerts?
We put out, when a boil advisory is issued, I have, I think, 21 or 22 people that are emailed. The mayor, service director, WQEL, the newspaper, it goes in Crawford County now. If it's on a weekend, I know the radio station and newspaper's not going to get it. And so what I do is I usually text message Bonnie, ask her if she can put it on the city website and Facebook. And I also text message Shay in the utility office to ask her to do the same thing. And there are times if I can, when I'm done and we're back at the garage, I'll issue the boil advisory when I'm finished, when we have everything fixed and we're leaving for the day. So I try my best to get it out there as quick as I can, and where it's at. And there are times when we can notify people when the water's shut down. There's times when we can't. And I know that upsets a lot of people, but I can't, if water's blowing out of the hole 3 foot high, I'm not gonna go knocking door to door before I shut the water down. It's just to me, it's common sense and it's not gonna happen.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to table deposits and procedures for utilities till next time. Don't have that done quite yet. That brings up CSO 5, Force Main projects. This time it's Jeff done.
That's not Jeff.
I'm not Jeff,
It's not
sorry
Jeff
to
either.
disappoint. All right, so the CSO 5 Force Main Lift Station project, so this is replacing the river crossing that is where the former CSO 5 used to be. It has now been closed. We don't have enough cover on the pipe crossing the river, and in fact had the break there month and a half, 2 months ago. So we're installing a force main, new lift station north of the river, and we will pump down to the interceptor sewer. So this project is in, I believe it's also in finance tonight, but it was previously in budget. We've had some cost increases on the project that I can go over now or during finance. Roughly total project of $514,000. So these plans have been, last week they were approved by EPA. So this is ready to go out to bid as soon as we get all the approvals here. Any questions on it?
Not right now, I don't know. Thank you, Jeff.
Brian, is there anything we need to do from this committee?
I don't think so, yeah, it's
Just get information?
pretty much the same with the next one, probably. Trading lands with Crawford County Park District and for Let's Drive property.
Oh, you're back.
You're back for that one too? huh?
Okay, so-
Well, it's part of the same thing.
Yep, all part
Yeah.
of the same project. So where that lift station will be sitting is along Lutz Drive. That property, after the apartments were torn down, was given to the Crawford Park District. I've been to a couple of the Park District meetings, and they have approved at their last meeting a resolution to transfer this property as a land swap with the city of Bucyrus. So they would be giving this property to the city of Bucyrus, and what we have discussed with them is in return, the city would then be giving, it is 3 parcels in the Unger Park area. The best way to describe it is there's 3 small parcels near the river and in the river near the Kerstetter Road Bridge, just north of the Kerstetter Road Bridge. So those 3 parcels are currently a part of a 99-year lease that the city has with the Park District, and so they're essentially using them currently, and the concern was brought up by the Park District about liability with the bike path that's going in back there, and them wanting to make sure that they had ownership of the property, so there was never any question on liability about the path.
Any questions? I see it's also in public lands too, later.
Yes, and I believe the public lands portion is to talk about the lease and the modifications we have to, yes, so as we dug into this further, so we found the lease for these 3 parcels, and then the portion of, what would be a portion of Allmiller Park near the Friendship Bridge. The Park District also has their 99-year lease over that portion of the property. From what I can interpret of it, it was in response to a civil case of state of Ohio against the city of Bucyrus around '02. And it was a part of the settlement was that the city had to give, not ownership, but use to the park district to better the property, to resolve the issue that they had created. So as a part of that, the lease is vague and has the park district can demolish and remove any property located within these boundaries, and made no reference to the sanitary sewer that runs through the property, those types of things. So we want to amend that lease to reference at a minimum the sanitary sewer, and then also put into place a maintenance agreement for the bike path access road that's getting built currently.
So this too is pretty much just information at this point. You moved on.
Yes, I think from this committee, it's just
this one, yeah.
informational.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Jeff.
You sure?
Yeah. Any open projects anybody wants to talk about?
Not tonight.
Seeing none? Seeing none, public participation again?
Vicki Dishon, 1108 Hillcrest Drive. On the CS05 Force Main project, now you said that there was nothing for the service committee to do on that, but they're considered the sponsor committee, are they not? In other words, don't they have to say, we approve this project, and then with their approval, it then goes on to the finance committee to approve the expending of the funds for the project?
Yeah, I mean, correct, yeah, that would.
I mean, I just don't want it to get to finance, and then we find out that they didn't approve it in their committee,
Right,
because then you're either going to have to wait till the next committee meeting, or they're going to have to reopen their committee back up.
yeah, so I suppose they don't need legislation prepared, but they could vote to approve the $514,000 CS05 project. And then if Finance Committee approved that as well, then you're good to go. Because Finance would request the legislation, but Service could approve it without, yes, they're not. So when you say they're this sponsoring committee, I think was what you said. They are, right, but they're not.
It's
so
like
it's going to come
they're
from
the
Finance.
first committee that you have
Yeah,
to go to.
right.
They have to approve the project
Right.
because their committee is where the project goes.
Right.
So that's considered, that's how we always viewed it when I
Okay.
worked for the law
But
director.
yeah, and I agree with you. So yes, they would, okay, we can approve it, but it's gonna, the actual legislation's coming out of Finance, right?
Well, technically, no. Technically, the legislation should recite Service Committee at the top. The Finance Committee is just approving the expending of the funds, and at least when, again, I work for the law director, we always then had the Service Committee sign off on the request for legislation saying that they approved the fund expenditure, but the fact that they couldn't do anything until the sponsor committee had to approve it. The sponsor committee's always who we put up in the right-hand corner. But again, I haven't been here since 2016, so maybe things changed. But if you look at our council rules and that, we talk about sponsor committee, and if there's more than one committee, then that committee has to sign off on the request for legislation form, approving as well. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because again, I don't want to get into finance and then find out that the original committee
Right.
didn't approve.
So you think that the Service Committee would request the legislation?
Or we just approve it to have it go into planning and then finance?
Of course, when it gets to finance,
I mean, public plan, excuse me.
well, could you do service/finance?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to do a joint committee.
Excuse me?
Both committees will request legislation. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just, not this specific one, but just in general,
Right.
thinking it through since whenever.
I would say in the
Finance
past,
has
it's,
been-
they
yeah.
put finance as
Finance has been the, because
but
it's
that's
money.
probably not
Yeah.
really correct.
And those, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
you guys could request legislation.
I'll make a motion to request legislation, or to authorize any legislation requested by Finance Committee. That way it's covered all the
And
way
you
around.
guys want this as an emergency in the back?
Well, the project's already been approved last year in the budget. We're just asking for additional money and let this committee know what's going on with it.
So,
And the land deal is a separate deal from the project then. But this project's been approved by last council.
Right.
So that's what I was thinking, we were just going on.
so just, my motion will be to authorize any legislation necessary that will come out of the Finance Committee and okayed by us here in service.
Second.
Now, the trading of the land with the Crawford Park District for the Lutz Drive property, the fact that we're doing trading, there's no money.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure then, why do we have that on the Finance Committee if we're not going to be expending funds? Because we aren't going to be expending funds.
It shouldn't be.
It
Yeah.
would just be a public lands, I suppose. Have public lands approve it. Or ask for legislation.
Well, this would be another one of those. It's under service, and then it's also under public lands and buildings. So you're back to,
But on this one, service doesn't much have anything to do with the actual land swap, right?
That's what I was thinking.
so why was it even under?
I think we may refer things in an overabundance of caution.
Okay,
I think that might have been how that happened.
all right, sounds
There's a
good.
motion
Not a
on the floor.
problem then. You've answered my questions.
We're going to refer everything.
There's a motion on the floor right now.
Okay.
You have to
So
vote
just
on it.
ask for a vote.
Ask for a vote.
Yeah, you have to.
I'd like to ask for a
Thank you.
vote for the motion.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
You're good.
Now public participation. Seeing none,
6:27.
6:27 adjourned.
Platting Committee, April 4th, 2024.
Platting Committee, members, Sharrock, Carolyn Shireman, Vicki Dishon, James Mead, Chair. And we're starting at what time?
6:30.
6:30. And we have public participation. Seeing none, approval of the minutes for March 21st, 2024, regular Platting meeting, committee meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular
Thank
Platting
you.
Committee meeting from March 21st, 2024.
Aaron's got it first. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vicki.
All in favor?
I was getting to it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Pass. We have the BCO 11890.03. How we doing on that, Mr. Garner?
Which one is that?
It's the change of language and the general requirements. We're still working on it?
That is on parking lots?
Yes, 1187.03.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Hill is here, but when he comes up to give his speech, we can talk more about what may be necessary to affect that change.
Okay, solar panels, did everybody get that today?
I just sent that to you.
Yeah, an hour ago, so I really didn't have a chance to read it.
I didn't get it.
I started up at 4 o'clock in the evening.
Why not?
Yeah, I know, I just got it out, but, so I think that would probably give you the ability before next committee meeting to go through, look at it, and then we can.
That sounds good to me. Good, we'll table it till next meeting.
Definitely.
Excellent, thank you.
100%.
Business home occupancy zoning. Mr. Landyn.
sir. Landyn Hill's zoning administrator. I don't know if you have a specific point where you'd like me to start, Mr. Chair, but if not, I provided you guys with just the relevant codes to this issue, and I can just kind of go through it, talk through it, and tell you what needs to change in order to allow for what we're talking about. The top one you have on your paper there is 1147.02. That is language that's associated with what powers the Board of Zoning Appeals has. And you can see there that it says specifically that under no circumstances shall the BZA grant an appeal or a variance that would allow for a use not permissible under this ordinance or prohibited in the terms of this ordinance. So working off of that, when you get to the residential district standards for accessory structures, 1187.01D states that the use of all accessory structures have to conform to the definition above, which I did not include, but no accessory structure shall be used for human habitation or for commercial purposes. So the prohibition in 1187.01 for a commercial use in an accessory structure thereby states that the BZA can't make that decision. I've also included the language for 1187.03. Essentially, it covers, and I highlighted, or I'm sorry, bolded and underlined it there, that in 1187.03A, home occupations talk about a use of the dwelling itself and not an accessory structure. So those two things are what is stopping the proposed use of an accessory structure for a commercial use and what would need to be changed in order to accomplish that. So in 1187.01D, you would likely cross out the or for commercial purposes and add some type of language that would reference it back to the home occupation portion of the additional residential district standards, and probably either there in A or create a new B and drop everything else down by a different designation. But to accommodate the accessory structure use. And whether or not, you know, I'm not prepared to give any particular language. I've yet to talk to Brian about it specifically, and obviously I would leave that up to you guys as the committee members to do that. But, you know, just some things that came to my mind. Do you want to have restrictions on size? Much like the home occupation stipulates that it can only be 25% of the dwelling floor area for a home occupation. Do you want something similar to that? Do you want to allow an accessory structure to be used fully for commercial purposes, that type of thing? Do you want to prohibit specific uses? The home occupation code itself, if you read through there, it does a pretty good job of controlling what would be able to go in there, specifically items D and E, or I'm sorry, items B and E. They talk about can't generate greater vehicular traffic volume in the neighborhood, can't create noise, vibration, fumes, odors, whatever. So I think that does an okay job of controlling it, but it may be worth specific prohibitions, machine shops, repair shops, retail sales, maybe even, all things I would leave up to you guys and just the things that kind of came to my mind. Because as I talked to Mr. Mee, I understand why the home occupation was written the way it was written, and I understand maybe the need to update that for the current climate, but I also think we need to keep the integrity of it to balance that with the neighborhood characteristics in which the use would be placed.
Have any questions?
So, would it be something where we could nix the part about the accessory structures and just add the home and accessory structures into the A part and have it where, as a variance is allowed through zoning and the steps.
Yeah, I think so. I
Would
think,
that be the best, I mean,
I
like,
think you
so
would-
that would keep all the rest of it in there.
Right.
And just add the
You
home
certainly don't
and
wanna-
accessory structures.
yeah, you
and
certainly
just-
don't want to do away with the rest of the home occupation
No.
code. You would strike out the commercial purposes in 1187.01D and add language that would reflect, a conditional use determination from the Board of Zoning Appeals on a case-by-case basis, following the requirements of
Following
the home
requirements for the home
occupation. Yep,
occupation.
correct.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Please.
Did not, at the last committee meeting, when Mr. Stuckert was here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to recall that he mentioned that while we are working on setting up a planning commission meeting, and then we'll have to have a public hearing, that in the interim, that, I'm trying to think, is it Mrs. Vanek? That she could apply for a variance in the interim. I didn't realize, Mr. Stuckert, you were here.
Quietly sitting here.
Did you not state that? That in the interim period, that a variance could be applied for?
No, I don't think I stated that.
Okay.
What I did state was that we did have an application for the variance for that, which we did approve, and apparently we did not know at the time the full extent of the requirements. And that occurred in July of 2023. That
Okay.
was a resident on Penn Avenue? Yes, Penn Avenue. Yeah.
What type of business was that? Do you recall?
She wanted to do a little craft, her home craft business, kind of an arts craft sales on a little shed.
I don't have those minutes.
Any thoughts?
That was approved in an accessory structure?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. I would disagree with that assessment, but the use itself makes me, might want to walk back the whole retail sales strict prohibition. And that brings to mind another one, which may have predated your time with the board. There was a lady over here on, I think it's East Rensselaer, a similar type thing, craft, but it was actually a home occupation and not the occupation of an accessory structure.
Oh, yeah. The big house on the corner.
Was it the Mater House?
Mater House.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. I was wrong.
So, I guess that would probably be considered retail sales, and that's probably not the most harmful thing to a residential neighborhood, but so might walk back the prohibition of retail sales, but still, I think,
So if I may ask Mrs., again, Vanek, were you under the impression that you could get a variance now in the interim?
No.
Okay, then I totally misunderstood.
No, Landyn told me right away, although
I mean, from the last meeting that we
Yeah, I
had.
think it was Mrs. Sharrock, that's what I was trying to say, I was replying, I'm pretty sure it's Mrs. Sharrock that said, if you're allowed, get a head start on that application for the BZA so that you'd be ahead of it. So that prompted another phone call to Landyn, and I'm like, hey, am I even able to do this if we haven't changed, the verbiage yet? And he said no, so that's what it kind of bounced
Okay.
back and forth. But I already did check into that.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
But then I guess procedurally, and I understand what you're saying, and that's sort of what we had talked about doing. So it has to go to the planning commission.
oh, this,
Yes.
yes, the change of this language, correct, yes.
Right, so you and I will get together, put the proposed ordinance together and submit it to the planning commission.
Mhm.
That would be the next procedural step.
Correct.
Please.
A recommendation would come out of planning commission to go back to this committee, for this committee to set up a public hearing.
Yep.
Public hearing happens, and then back to committee, and then back to full council. A lengthy process, obviously, but
And then the 1189.03 had to do with the materials to be used in parking lots. And I think that did you guys ask for legislation for that or not?
No, because remember, you're still working on it.
Anyway, I can't remember what I'm working on there.
I know I load your plate a lot. I apologize.
It's not on my notes.
But I can't do it.
No,
There's a line I draw, so.
I mean, but that would also, any changes to the zoning code would go through the same concept. So,
And that's just as simple as striking out
yeah.
hard, durable, dustless surface and replacing it with concrete or asphalt, which is how I always interpreted that. Was there was a planning commission many years ago about this subject, and basically the planning commission said hard, durable, dustless meant concrete or pavement. So whenever there's a question on that, I would just pull out the minutes from that specific planning commission meeting and use that as my reference to what that meant. But I do think it's better that it's specifically spelled out in the
Concrete,
code.
asphalt.
Correct.
So that,
We can come up with a list of,
So are these things that we could do, when's planning commission meet?
as soon as Landyn and I
Yeah,
get
at
them
your
the,
request.
So,
So we could maybe have this figured out before our next meeting? Question mark.
yeah.
Because I think, wasn't the thought that we would have one public
One
hearing
public
and
hearing
do
for
all?
of these issues.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we'll get the solar thing in on that or not, but
that's fine.
at least we could have
I don't know if they have
1189.03
before our
and
meeting
the
for us.
accessories.
Right.
You and I can meet tomorrow or Monday and get those things put together, and then we'll schedule that. But that's sort of good.
Okay.
I'd like to be, that's a public meeting, right?
Oh, for sure.
I'd like to be there.
I think it just has to be called by Mayor Truca, so,
By the chair.
yeah.
It can be done at any time.
Mayor Truca's the chair, yeah.
Anything else you want to change in the zoning code while I got you?
You want to go line by line? How long you guys want to be here?
Enjoy that planning commission meeting and tell us what you came up with.
No, as a interim zoning administrator, the test for my replacement was just scheduled last night at the Civil Service Commission. So as an interim zoning administrator, I don't feel it's my place to start making changes in this code. But if you guys ever need any advice while I'm still in that chair, I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Sure
Let's do
thing.
it quick. I said, let's do it quick.
Thanks.
Okay, there we are.
So, are we wanting to talk about any things that we want to prohibit being allowed in an accessory building?
If you like, yes. I mean, some of it's covered.
Yes, I mean, I'm fine with what's here now, and if,
I like the way that they had it for the original.
okay,
Would you
great.
like to add anything?
No, I have
Okay.
nothing to add. Mm-mm. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't end this meeting and
Yeah.
these two do their thing, and then we come along and think, well, we want that, and we have a
Just like-
planning commission.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like the solar panels.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Question, because,
Sorry.
It's procedure.
Jacqueline Vanek, 335 All Miller Drive. In regards to it running as like a separate entity, because I think that was my big question, is that, does it have to be run as a separate entity if I put like an accessory building there? Like, for instance, if it's a total separate like shed, let's say, if somebody wanted to put a shed somewhere and they ran electricity and whatever to it, can it be ran as a separate entity, or does it have to come off the house? And all the existing stuff, because it is residential.
You mean the utilities?
Yeah.
So she wants to run different separate utilities.
I'm just wondering, I have quotes like to do both, and it's pretty much the same, but it sounds like it'd be a little bit more difficult to run it as a separate entity, because a new tap might need and put in there or whatever.
You
but-
don't want to be putting another tap on.
No, exactly.
You're gonna
But,
have a mess.
but I want to know if is that allowed, like in the current?
Well, that was a question to whether or not to address, well, the 25% for the dwelling portion. Do you want to have some type of size requirement, or do you want to allow a totality of a accessory structure to house a commercial use.
Yeah, because you don't want anybody putting like a huge pole barn in their backyard. They don't own that much property. Just a thought, but I don't know if there's anything in place for it right now. That was my question.
Something that would require you to have separate.
To do that.
How are we going to do that?
Okay. Okay, that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay. While the planning committee is open, somebody had suggested on the solar panels that we had no wind turbines within the city of Bucyrus. Just a paragraph. So next is open projects. Do we have any open projects that need to be brought up?
I could talk to you more, but is there a size on wind turbine?
No, you can specify that.
Like some people already have windmills and other things.
I'll specify a size on it. That'd be all right.
Let's take something.
I just don't want the Empire State Building
Yeah.
size windmills. Okay. Any more public participation?
Fankhauser, 616 Prospect. The accessory structure being used in a commercial setting. I don't know if this would be appropriate, but I could potentially see an issue with that being called a commercial facility and then triggering something with the state building code where Richland County, who currently inspects commercial structures in Bucyrus, would then fall under jurisdiction. And then you have to have architecturally engineered blueprints. And the list just keeps getting worse and worse. So I don't know if, since an accessory structure is on a residential property, could it be worded maybe in the zoning code that for building code purposes, that structure is still considered residential? That way it just makes it so that Richland County can't come in there, because they're going to cause you all kinds of problems if they show up.
So
But if you included it as like, yeah,
Yes.
that designated building can fall under the home occupancy, it's considered your 25% or whatever.
I don't know, I was just thinking like a simple line in the code that just said, for commercial building code purposes, this is still considered a residential property, and then that would kind of clear it up, so Richland County wouldn't be.
Richland County will.
Because it's going to drive your costs up like quadruple if that happens.
what was that, Landon?
Richland County's not gonna care if we have a piece of line in our code that calls it non-commercial.
That was my
They have their
understanding.
own.
Because then you got to get an occupancy permit, and it says, well,
I
there's,
think the language of the home occupancy would be, it's a home occupancy of an accessory structure, so it's no different than the current home occupancy that we have. It's a good question, though. But putting anything in our code isn't gonna stop Richland County from doing what they need to do.
And that's what I was under the understanding.
so I asked somebody once, and I don't know if it was at the state building code office, and they said it was basically, I said, well, what defines, who makes the call if that's a commercial property or a residential property? And they said the municipality that it's in is who makes the call as to what it is.
I'd be curious to get that answer from Richland County, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian, could you call the Richland County Building Office and ask them, you know, in this particular scenario with a commercially used structure in somebody's backyard, where does that fall? Is there something we can change to exempt it or something?
What we can do,
Okay,
avoiding those issues.
okay.
Ken Long, 625 South Spring Street. If I could help, between real estate here and also in Columbus, I think I understand what everybody's trying to do, but if it's a for-profit type of thing, commercial, it's commercial. And I'm not trying to step on our parade, I'm just being realistic. If you're trying to make a residential home have an accessory that runs a business, the business is commercial. However you want to look at it. And Richland County will eat that alive, in my opinion, having dealt with them. So, just something to think about, because, if you're, I can't get a good example, just something for a hobby, and they want, that's one thing. Hobby is not like a commercial business, and I think that's what she's trying to do. And like I said, I don't want to be the bad guy. I'm just bringing some experience with this kind of stuff. So.
Okay.
Bill Stuckert, 205 North Spring Street. One of the issues I see here that if you restrict the use of accessory structures, you're also including garages that are separate, that a lot of people may be using to make their crafts in, that they take to the flea markets and craft shows and so forth to sell. So if you restrict the use of accessory structures, you're going to prevent them from doing what they already been doing in their accessory structures now.
I don't think that's a problem if we're doing it in your garage. I think this has to more with being.
Well, it's an
Be careful
accessory
about-
structure. If your garage is separate, it's an accessory
Out
structure.
of their garage.
It makes no difference. They're using that structure to create the product that they're going to sell, so that is actually a part of their business then.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Jackie Vanek, 335 All Miller Drive. In response to yours, I have been looking for a property for 2 years, so I am totally ready for Richland County. In fact, I know everything that I need to do. I was ready to buy a building and tear it apart and put what I needed in there, but the problem is I can't afford it. So I think we're overthinking it when it comes to all of that. I think it's just getting a little too messy. I'm going to be erecting my structure. So I will get every footprint I need for Richland County so that they can show up at my door. If not, I wouldn't be here. I'd be doing it already, like, I think, behind closed doors, right? That's not really the point of what I'm trying to get through. I'm trying to get it done so that other people like me can operate legally and do it the right way. And I think that should be the focus, is like, let's just get that done. And if I have to run through Richland County, I'll do that all day long. I would have had to do that to purchase property here, so I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. So, that's
Thank
it.
you. Are we good? Any more public participation? We're past open projects? Huh? Adjourned at 6:56.
April 4th, 2024.
I call the Health and Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:58 PM. Members present are C. Aaron Sharrock, James Me, and myself, Vicki Dishon, Chair. First, public participation. Seeing no one, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 21st, 2024 regular Health and Safety Committee meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 21st, 2024 regular Health and Safety Committee meeting.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Sharrock and a second from Mr. Me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anything from the open projects list?
Kicked off line. I don't have anything. You guys got anything?
Nope. I don't. Okey-doke. Then public participation again. Seeing no one, we end the Health and Safety Committee meeting at 6:59 PM.
Public Lands and Buildings Committee, April 4th, 2024.
I'm calling Public Lands and Buildings Committee to order at 7:01 PM. Members present are Zion Hickman, Carolyn Shireman, Christopher Moritz, and myself, C. Aaron Sharrock, as chair. To begin the meeting, do we have any public participation? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of minutes.
I approve the minutes for March 21st, 2024, regular.
So you're making a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Shireman,
Second.
a second from Mr. Hickman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So now the topic of trading land with Crawford Park District for Let's Drive property.
So, motion to ask for legislation authorizing and directing the Service Safety Director on behalf of the city of Bucyrus to transfer. Do you have those parcel numbers? I can't read them.
You'd like me to read them off to you?
Yes, please.
I wrote them down just for
They're
this purpose.
too small, but go.
Okay, so the Lutz Drive property that the Park District currently owns is 0800169200006.
20006.
And then 0800169200006. There are 3 parcels out in the Unger area. First one is 07001197001. Second one is 07001195002. And the third one is 07000119503.
Thank you.
So as a
So-
part of this, we also need to make sure that we're authorizing the service director to amend the lease to remove those 3 parcels and then make the amendments to the lease for adding in the agreement for the bike path and for the maintenance of the bike path, and then being able to note that there's a sanitary sewer that the Park District can't just tear out.
So do we need a motion for legislation on this, or what precisely, Mr. Gruner?
Right, so you need a piece of legislation authorizing and directing the Service Safety Director to transfer the Unger Park parcels, which would be the 3 that started with 07, to the Crawford Parks District, Crawford County Parks District, or whatever their legal name is.
I believe it's just
Crawford Park District, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be, so
With the
authorizing him to
stipulations?
transfer those,
Crawford Park District.
and then the maintenance agreement would probably be a separate piece of legislation for the service road / bike path, but you could ask for legislation authorizing the service safety director to enter into a maintenance agreement with the park district pertaining to the service / bike path.
Would that need to be separate, or would that be something that you'd put into it, authorize it to be transferred with a service agreement attached to that transfer?
They are 2 separate. They're 2
And
separate
there's some rule
things.
about each ordinance can only have one topic, so
Okay.
just to split this up into logical points in my mind, the transfer would be one logical step, the maintenance agreement would be a second step,
And the
and then
acceptance would be the third.
through the transferring in that first step, when we're transferring properties, we would also authorize the service safety director to provide or to put in language pertaining to maintenance and basically maintaining the sanitary sewers that are going to be on the properties that we're transferring away from us. And also, I mean,
And I don't know if it
lease,
matters, but
the lease won't matter
the
because once we transfer the properties, just by default, the lease no longer operates because we now
but
own
there's
those.
still
Well,
one
there's
more.
still part of
there's
That
still
parcel
one
will still
more.
be under the lease though, without
Okay.
without modifying
And
it.
that's the parcel that the sewer runs through. These other three that we're transferring, there's no utilities through those.
So the ones that we were transferring, we really don't need
No.
anything.
No,
We just transfer those.
Yeah, we
We
just
don't
need
need
to
an easement or
transfer
anything.
those. We don't need any easement. We don't need anything for those. They just need to be transferred.
So then
Just the
the legislation would be transferring those three properties and authorizing him to accept it, which really doesn't do anything. He'll accept it, but provided you guys are okay. But we don't need legislation accepting property. We just need, I guess, committee's
Legislation to
approval.
transfer.
But if the property that we need the agreement that they're not gonna tear out this sewer is already in the lease, I mean, I can look at it, but that would still exist.
Yep.
And then as far as the service road maintenance agreement, that would be a separate piece that,
Yep.
Mr. Starner and I could put together an agreement with the Parks District and get that signed.
Yep.
So only two pieces. Two pieces. Unless you have more.
No. that's
So we're just
all I
making a
have
motion
for
to
you.
transfer the,
To bring up the two pieces of legislation as just explained by Mr. Gerner.
there you go.
So I don't, but is this time sensitive?
I was thinking that too. I was kind of wondering, it probably is, isn't it?
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be,
as an
it would be
emergency.
Yeah.
good to do this as an emergency.
Probably the service agreement with the bike path does not need to be an emergency though.
Yeah, that probably doesn't need to be an
It's still a
emergency
dirt bike
because
path right now.
yeah, we're several months from that being
Right.
paved.
So we
where
could
it
do that one.
matters.
So you would need one motion asking,
For the transfer.
asking for a motion to, not as an emergency, a motion to enter into an agreement for the maintenance, the care and maintenance of the service road / bike path through Unger and All Miller Parks. That would be your first
Okay,
piece.
I'll make a motion for that one.
Okay, so we have a motion for the first one from Mr. Moritz for the service agreement.
I'll second that.
With a second from Mr. Hickman, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then the second one?
You would need a motion authorizing and directing the service safety director on behalf of the city of Bucyrus to transfer parcels 07-000119.7.001, 07-001195.002, and 07-001195.003 to the Crawford Parks District.
May I make that motion?
I have a motion from Mr. Hickman. Do I-
As an
That one
emergency.
as an
As an
emergency,
emergency.
yes, thank you.
I have a motion as emergency from Mr. Hickman.
So moved.
Do I have a second for the, a second from Mr. Shireman? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
And then I suppose you could ask for a motion authorizing the city to accept the Let's Drive property. Since we're gonna own it, I suppose public land should approve that
So we should go
ownership.
ahead and
We don't need legislation, but
ask for a
approve it.
motion to approve the city accepting the Let's Drive property.
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll
Okay.
second.
A motion from Mr. Moritz and a second from Mr. Hickman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, so that seems to be completely taken care of. Is there anything on the open projects list that anybody would like to speak about at this time? All right, do we have any other public participation? Oh, we have Mr. Starner.
Tommy Starner, Service Safety Director. Just want to remind everyone that the city building, City Hall will be closed on Monday. Will be locked on Monday. It will not be closed, it'll just be locked. So,
All right, so the building will be locked up tight on Monday. Do we have any other public participation at this time? Okay, so I'm going to adjourn Public Lands and Buildings at 7:11 PM.
Development Committee, April 4th, 2024.
I will call Economic Development Committee to order at 7:12 PM. Members present are Vicki Dishon, Carolyn Shireman, Christopher Moritz, and Zion Hickman, myself, Chair. Do we have any public participation? Seeing none, I will move on to the approval of minutes from the March 21st, 2024 regular Economic Development Committee meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from March 21st, 2024.
I have a motion from Mr. Moritz,
Second.
second from Ms. Shireman. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approved. Moving on to the Tourism and Visitors Bureau. Ms. DeShawn, I believe you had something to speak on about that?
Yes. Late this afternoon, I called Mrs. Grau, realizing that I don't think anybody invited her to attend tonight's meeting to discuss the Tourism and Visitors Bureau. She did have a prior family commitment, which I told her that was fine, not a problem, was calling her late. She said we should go ahead and have our meeting. She felt that, she had done her explaining of the Tourism Bureau and she was comfortable with her not being here. But while we were on the phone, I did ask her some questions, and I'd like to let you know what those questions were and the answers that she gave. First off, we had talked about that Ohio Revised Code Section 717.20 talks about that semi-annual reports on the use of the expenditures shall be made to the legislative authority by the Bucyrus Tourism Bureau. At the last, I think it was the Finance Committee, when we were talking about bed tax, and we also allowed Mrs. Grau to speak, even though the tourism is under economic development. Mr. Myers indicated that he would prefer to have quarterly expenditure reports. Now, my question to Mr. Gerner is, the fact that the Ohio Revised Code says semi-annual reports shall be made, are we allowed to change and make it quarterly?
Yes.
I will say that when I spoke with, and I'm going to call her Cassie, when I spoke with Cassie, she was fine with the quarterly. In fact, she said she would prefer to do the quarterly.
This probably is going to be, we'll probably get one pretty soon then. We'll probably get one pretty soon then, this quarterly.
Yes, she has one ready.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So she's fine with that. The next question was a 2-year contract or 1-year contract. For budgetary reasons, Cassie said that she would like to have a 2-year, but that she'll accept, what the committee and then, council would decide. Just a reminder that in the Crawford Partnership Agreement that we had prepared earlier this year or had approved, there is a termination clause in that agreement. And I think we're going to agree that we would like to have that same termination clause in the agreement with the Tourism Bureau. And what that termination clause says, it just is that the city and the Bucyrus Visitors and Tourism Bureau shall be entitled to terminate this agreement at any point with or without cause upon a 30-day written notice of their intention to do so. Cassie was very much in favor of having that clause placed in the agreement, and she said particularly because there has been some ongoing talk about the merging of the tourism bureaus. And if that merging would happen, then we would be availing ourselves of that termination clause. So she's perfectly fine with that. Let's see here. I questioned if she felt that the legislation needed to be passed as an emergency. I explained to her if you pass legislation as a non-emergency, how we have 3 separate readings. And after the 3rd reading, which at that reading is when typically, legislation is approved, The legislation, though, does not become law until 30 days later. And I said, let's just hypothetically say that we make a decision tonight and we have our first reading at the next council meeting. We would be looking at sometime in June before this legislation would become law, which means they would not get a payment until June, which basically we could be looking at the first quarter. Well, really, it would just be the first quarter payment that we would be looking at, because you wait until the end of June, and in July, the city, gives that payment after they get monies from the hotels. She said she was perfectly fine with the legislation being non-emergency, and felt that for, the public has been a little concerned about all the legislation that gets passed as emergency. And that was one of my goals when I got on council, was to try and not pass legislation as an emergency if at all possible. She's perfectly fine and said that they're fine not having that as an emergency. My question to Mr. Gerner is, how you're coming on researching Ohio Revised Code 5739.09B1, the code which was referred to in our tourism agreements many, many moons ago and up to the current time. That code has now been, or that code section has now been done away with.
Right. So I think if you guys are comfortable requesting legislation entering into an agreement with Tourism Bureau, I think that then I can bring that to you guys, and I don't think that there's any red herrings. I think it will be okay. I'm not going to guarantee that I don't find something when I'm finishing it up, but I think that we would be at a position where we could safely request that legislation, especially since it's in a non-emergency, and have it ready for the next regularly scheduled meeting, and you guys can review it and we can tweak it as we go, putting it together. But there's nothing that I have found yet that it's vastly changes the scenario or the statutory structure that we're operating under.
Does anybody on the, well, I guess I don't know why I'm asking, I'm not the chairperson, but I'll ask. Does anybody have any questions on what I was saying?
Can you repeat that number to me, please?
What number?
The one that,
579.031.
Yeah, 5739.09B1.
thank you.
I did have a question.
Sure.
Did she say that it was the merging of the chambers or the merging of the bureaus?
Possible.
Possible. Well, there is going to be a merger of the chambers.
Right.
And when she spoke at our last committee meeting, she had indicated that right now,
There's
not being the merging of the tourism bureaus, but there's talk that that could happen, but not right now.
Okay. And I guess my next question is, are we looking for a 2-year or a 1-year? What did we do for the partnership? Was that a 2-year?
That was 2-year, and that was because of that opt-out agreement.
Okay.
I think that's what we were looking at for too, is 2 years, right?
Excuse me?
We're looking for a 2-year one for this one also then? Or,
That's what, Mrs. Grau indicated that they would like.
yeah.
And I'm fine, especially the fact that we have this opt-out. That if
Right, I would be
something,
fine with the 2-year because we have the termination clause
Right.
in.
or yes, termination, that's the proper word, yes.
And I don't have the dollar amount for this agreement, do we?
Well,
For sure.
there is no dollar amount because it's 50% of the bed tax.
Right,
and-
I forgot that, my
Yeah.
bad.
Yes, and that's what we do need to, state in the legislation, that they receive 50% of the bed tax.
Okay. So as a non-emergency as well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm suggesting the 1 year with the clause.
I would much rather just have the 2-year, just because we have the termination clause.
I
We can-
understand what you want, but I'm saying, my opinion, I'm suggesting the 1 year with the clause.
I suppose that is up to the rest of the committee. So do I have a motion to enter into an agreement with the Tourism and Visitors Bureau for a 2-year contract with a termination clause as a non-emergency. Was that correct?
Retroactive.
Retroactive to January 1st, 2024.
Yep, covered everything.
Which requires quarterly expenditure reports.
Oh, yes, and the quarterly thing.
Which requires quarterly expenditure reports. I forgot that and I had it written down.
I got it written down too, I still forgot it. Miss anything else on that one? I make a motion to make legislation for that then.
I second that motion.
I have a first from Mr. Moritz, a second from Ms. Dishon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Passed. Do we have anything on open projects that we want to look at?
One moment. So you're voting in favor of that,
Yes.
of the 2-year deal? Because so we have 4-person committee, so you would need 3 votes to
That
get
is
it out of
right.
committee. And Ms. Shireman voting no would be 2-1 without the chair. So just for clarity's sake, but you would vote,
I vote yes.
okay.
I completely forgot that we had gone through with that one.
Yeah, that's part of the.
Now I will go to open projects.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you for clearing that up. I completely forgot about that.
Vicki would've got us later on it.
What's that?
You'd have got us later on it anyway.
We would have had to fix it.
Seeing nothing to discuss in the open projects list, do we have any more public participation? Seeing none, I will adjourn economic development at 7:24 p.m.
Finance Committee, April 4th, 2024.
Finance Committee, James Me, Chris Moritz, Vicki Dishon, Kevin Myers is absent. And we started at 7:26. Public participation.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. I've always said this before, the First Amendment of the Constitution is right to free speech and what I believe to be true from information research, state agencies, and other forms of communication. I truly believe the contract with Bucyrus Festival Inc. should not be renewed and that the ordinance 218-2021 should be repealed at this time. These are my reasons why. There is over $500,000 that's still, by the police and fire buyouts, that has never been addressed yet in the budget or on the floor of this chamber. Where's that money going to come from? Currently, the Bucyrus City Police Department canine handlers are now fundraising for new canine vehicles, selling T-shirts to help purchase these vehicles. The police chief has stated in the past that the current fleet of vehicles is getting old and needs to be replaced soon. Only one new vehicle has been purchased, and that's because the police chief has saved money to make this happen. The fire department ladder is going to cost approximately $80,000 to fix. What happens if you can't fix the problem? Does the city have over $2 million to replace this truck? And then it's 2 to 4 years out after that to even get one. We don't know what's going to happen with the city of Bucyrus' funding at the end of this year and the beginning of next year. Even the auditor will not commit to anything about this because she doesn't know for sure, and I agree with her. She doesn't have the magic crystal ball or the fortune cards to tell us that everything will be fine. Council has not even addressed to discuss the possibilities of levies to be placed on the November election. What happens if they fail? Then what? There's a possibility, as the mayor stated, that the sidewalks in the downtown area might not meet ODOT requirements, and we do not want to lose our funding to pave certain streets in our community. The city of Bucyrus loses, and I just found this out, loses sales tax and income tax when local businesses shut down during the festival, and there are many that shut down. How much money is the city not getting from that shutdown? How much money is the city not getting from vendors during the festival? According to the Ohio Department of Taxation, each vendor must file with the county on their sales tax while working within the county. This shall be done monthly or semi-annually for this. So where's that money? And who's taking care of that matter? There are too many factors in this to agree on this matter. You as council members just can't give free services away until all the facts are known. Oh yes, will we go out against the out-of-town workers? Other factors, the festival has been given more free service since 2016, including this year they will get service, than any other event in this community. Not the car show, bike show, or anything else. The festival gets the most. The festival does not want to open up their books yet. They are, according to their webpage, a nonprofit organization. Why can't this festival work with the city on this matter? Why the secrets? Why the false facts? Why the drama in all this? Why hide behind something? The festival needs to stand on their own feet and do what they can with what they have. Everyone has to do this in everyday life. If you can't afford something now, you just have to wait, save your money for this down the road. There are many other facts that are coming out each and every day about this that are very questionable issues that could have happened or may not have happened. Time will tell soon. Just waiting on more information, facts, and videos on some of these issues. So I'm encouraging you as City of Bucyrus council members to really look at these issues and facts and not renewing this contract to appeal the ordinance with the Bratwurst Festival at this time. Wait until later to see how the city can help out down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. White,
Yes, sir.
we are doing the best we can.
Oh, I know you are.
Okay.
I'm just saying is, I think
What we
that,
have to work with, we're doing the best we can.
I know, but other events don't get any money.
Sure.
Okay, that's plain and simple. That is a true statement. Other events do not get money like the festival.
Any other public participation?
I'm going with that one. Aaron Sharrock, 1485 Oak Ridge Drive. It was stated that other events don't get anything. Who pays the extra police for the police car show? Who pays the extra police for any other event in town? So to state that no other events get anything extra from the city isn't true. We still have nobody paying for the trash to be hauled away. It sits out here and it gets taken just like it does for every other event. This is not acceptable to say one thing and then not say something else. I'm annoyed by this whole conversation because these things all help our community. I would never destroy part of our community when it's bringing more things in. Nothing, I mean, any of it. We need music at the mural. We need First Fridays. We need the festival. These are the things that get people downtown. These are the things that get people participating. These are the things that give people something to do. Our festival brings in more people than anything else we've got. It has. It's done an amazing thing for our community. It's amazing marketing. Us attacking this at this point in time while we're still trying to figure out that we're not out this huge amount of money. What was it? It was brought down to $16,000 in extra safety forces and a driver of a trash truck, which we may have figured out how to keep from having to pay an extra bit for the trash truck. So if we can figure out ways to continue to cut this down, I don't understand why we're doing this attack on any of our groups and then blatantly stating things that they're not true either. So.
Thank you, Aaron.
Carolyn Shireman, 1065 Eastville. Is there any kind of time limit put on the Bratwurst Festival from council to produce any records for us to look at before we make a decision? And if not, how much longer are we going to entertain this, I'm just going to call it a game, before we really decide what we're going to do?
Ms. Dishon?
That's something that I want to discuss tonight. I have my lists of things, and that's one of them.
Thank you.
Any more public participation? I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from March 21st, 2024, regular Finance Committee meeting. Have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes for March 21st, 2024.
Thank you.
And I second that motion.
Thank you, Vicki.
Mr. Chair.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Next on the list, we have a CSO 05 Force Main Project. We've already heard about it. So do we need to know anything else?
So I will just give you the dollar amounts for this. So currently, there is $429,295 in the 725 fund. That is what's current in budget. What we would need to add, we've just had some, this project's really kind of borderline between two different sizes of lift stations, which then changes the force main size, which then changes the generator size. So, and we ended up bumping up in those things, which we didn't expect. So increase in that cost would be $84,800, which brings us to a total project of $514,095 is what the current estimate's at, and that's the what we'll be going out to bid for, assuming everything gets approved here tonight.
Dylan, you tried to add in there that there is money in that 725 fund to be able,
Yes.
the 80,000 is in that fund.
Yes.
Oh, so it's already in there, so we don't have
It's in there,
to?
just needs to be put for this
Just-
project.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that right, Caleb?
Yes, it's not referred to tonight. I'll get it next time around, but it'll be in there. I'll refer it next meeting.
Okay.
Can we do it now or not?
Yeah, can we approve it now?
Can we,
As a resolution even, or just approve it?
Yeah, so you guys would be approving the service safety director to go out to bid for $514,095
Yes.
for the Force Main CSO 5 project. And then if we gotta do some math,
Yep.
switching it between funds, we can do that next. But this would be the first step, getting it out to bid.
Yep. And honestly, even if it's at the next meeting, that's probably before we're into contracts anyways. So by the time we have to go through council and then public bidding and reviewing, and so
So
we'll
we
be
need an
fine.
emergency on that?
Yes, if you could, that would be great.
We'll do that for you. Maybe.
Yes, mainly because this is resolving an active notice of violation with Ohio EPA. Since we had that sewer break, this project has been expedited here.
So do I have a motion?
That's why she got that notification off the radar.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion as an emergency to do that.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so we will have this ready for the next meeting, council meeting.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I like moving forward. Trading land for the Crawford Park District for Litz Drive. So we don't have to do that?
Yeah, we
one?
scratched that.
Yeah,
There's
scratch
nothing
that
for us to do.
Thank you. Pool management wages. I think we wanted to increase the manager to,
$20, I think.
and we have a volunteer.
Service Safety Director, Tommy Starner. I'd like to raise the pool manager's wage from 16 to 20 and give them the responsibilities of monitoring chemicals and doing the concession stands.
Oh, wow.
So currently in the Manpower Act, it's like 1620 this year and 1640 or something next year.
It was something.
So we would just amend the Manpower Act and put $20 in for 2024
Yeah.
and just keep it 20 for 2025.
And then, yeah, then we can look at it going up maybe.
But they would be doing substantially more than what the previous managers have been doing, right?
It was $16.
It was $16 an hour, but they wasn't maintaining the pool water, and they wasn't maintaining the stands.
No, actually, Mr. Wagner maintained the concession stand and all the food in it. Any other questions?
Yes.
Actually, back in budget time, we actually, finance we talked about this, putting it at $20, it just never happened. So in budgets, we actually put the money there for this to take place. It just never happened in Manpower. So we get the wages and stuff set up.
So you need an amendment to amend the manpower ordinance? So I,
Do you need that as an emergency? You're probably seeking applications and all good stuff.
It would be the end of, well, probably mid-May when they would actually start.
So we would need it.
Yeah.
It's April now, yeah.
We're looking now to hire.
Yeah, so yes, you're just.
Emergency.
A motion to, as an emergency, to amend the Manpower Act to include $20 as the pool supervisor, I think it's, what is the measure?
manager, supervisor. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to amend ordinance number 22-2023, which is the manpower ordinance, to recite the hourly rate of $20 per hour for the pool supervisor, in parenthesis, manager, as an emergency.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Appropriations for the drug law enforcement fund.
A little explanation about this. These are different seizures that police make when they are going into a home or they arrest someone for drugs, something like that. They can, if they have money on them, they can take it. They recently took they'd been building it up for a while. And they took it to the bank. So now that they deposited, they wanted to bring it in so that they can actually use that money to make purchases. So the appropriations is for drug law enforcement equipment into Fund 835, drug law enforcement, under Program 7110, Police Department, and item number 24, materials and supplies, in the amount of $37,549.99.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Appropriations for Mark's grant.
So I actually need to scratch that. We already did that, guys.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
Is that drug enforcement an emergency?
As an emergency, excuse me. Or not.
Neil would probably like it to be.
Yeah, we always do
Sorry.
those as a
Yeah.
So your amended motion is that?
My amended motion would be as an emergency.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's get to it.
I know.
I can't write and talk at the same time. Come on. Transferring appropriations to the general fund.
We have a couple first quarter blankets that are still out. I'd like to get those closed so I can get exact figures. So I'm going to ask to table transferring, appropriating the general fund to safety forces fund, as well as appropriating for a transfer line into general fund into safety forces fund.
So you want to table that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then next is appropriating for the transfer line into the general fund into the safety forces fund.
No.
You table that?
Table.
Appropriations for demolition fund.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I got an email earlier today that the referral on Tuesday for demolition fund should have been worded derelict fund.
Derelict fund.
So, Vicki pointed out that in the reviewing of the rules of procedure for Bucyrus City Council, see miscellaneous number 4, stating that all committee referrals shall be made by the president of council during the council meeting. If an emergency issue arises, the president of council may bypass the formal committee referral process and assign the emergency issue to the proper committee for consideration of study. So I am at this point in time referring the appropriations for derelict fund, not demolition fund, to this committee.
I'm good to go? Okay. So thank you, Kurt, for correcting that for me. We want to appropriate into the Fund 820 Derelict Building Liability Fund into Program 7115 Fire Department under Item 28 Other Uses, $26,260. And a little explanation for what this is. If someone's house catches on fire or burns down, their insurance will send the city a check, and then our fire department has to go and make sure that they have appropriately handled the situation before we give them those funds. That way, the homeowner can't collect the money and then leave with a, half burnt down house for the city to have to take care of. So we receive the check from insurance. Now we have to appropriate it so we can write the check to this gentleman. And as an emergency would be wonderful.
As an emergency, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's done. Now we're to resolution 218, 2021. Take it away.
Okay. Our resolution 218, 2021 has to do with the permanent agreement that the city has with the Bucyrus Bratwurst Festival, where the city does not charge the festival for safety forces and cleanup expenses incurred. Okay, first off, couple comments. We have repeatedly asked to look at the financials of the Bratwurst Festival. At the last council or last committee meeting, I asked Myers why the Bratwurst Festival isn't willing to provide the financials. Myers responds stating that the only reason that he can think of is that the board recently switched attorneys and both attorneys have told them not to. Later on, Law Director Gernert stated that he can try to contact the Bucyrus Festival attorneys and try to set up a meeting between them and James, me, and myself, Vicki Dishon, to go over their financials. So I guess my first question is to Mr. Gernert. Have you had an opportunity to?
Right, so I'm not sure, but when I was going about that, I know that they. the President Fankhauser, I believe, sent them a letter based upon the same request, asking to meet with them to discuss financials so that the council would have a better understanding. So I didn't reach out because I didn't know what the,
So
what occurred with that.
I had talked about me sending them a letter, certified mail, because at the one meeting there a month and a half ago that Mr. Heinlein and the majority of his board was sitting there in the back row, I was at the podium and I turned and I said, would you be willing to share your financials with us? And then he said, I'll take it to my board. I have not heard back from them or him at all. So then I was thinking, okay, what's the next step here? And I thought a certified letter to them asking for an answer to that question, are you willing to turn over financials to us, was something that came to my mind. I have not gotten around to doing that, and then Vicki called me, or James, or both of you here in this week, and I said, yeah, I said, maybe we need to get rolling on sending this letter. And since I had been the one that asked Adam there in the meeting, Mr. Heinlein, if he would be willing to do that, I felt at that point that I could probably ask Miranda to get a letter around and she can go up to the post office and get it certified and sent to them. And because we are running out of time here.
Well, some more comments if I may make.
I have a thought.
Like I say, we have repeatedly asked, I mean, this started back in February, and here we are, April. My personal opinion is we need to give them a deadline, and I feel the deadline needs to be April 12th. By April the 12th, they need to release their financials to us for review. And the only reason I feel we need to have the financials to review is, I mean, the festival is asking us to take care of the expenses that their festival, or the festival, is incurring. So, I mean, if someone's asking me for money, I want to see, do you really need it? So I want to see their financial records. I think we've waited long enough. So to me, I think April 12th is the deadline for them to release the financials. If they have not released those financials by April the 12th, or even if they have released them to us by April the 12th, then I'm looking at April the 18th when we have our next committee meeting, Finance Committee meeting, that we meet, and at that time, we recommend legislation to do one of two things. First off, we do need to repeal resolution number 20, resolution 218, 2021. Repealing it because it says that it says here that we need to give the festival a 1-year advance notice of change to the agreement. I don't like this permanent agreement. I mean, before it was always every year we did an agreement. I think the reason possibly that a permanent agreement was looked at is you do a piece and you don't have to pay for legislation anymore to advertise every year. In this case, I don't think that's proper. So first off, I want to get rid of this resolution. Then we need to send the appropriate letter to them, giving them advance notice that we are changing the agreement and letting them know what that change is going to be, whether it's we're going to totally pay nothing for the festival charges, that the Bratwurst Festival themselves will be responsible, or if we decide that we're going to pay, X number of dollars. I had mentioned, possible sharing.
But I do think the PR is worth something.
I agree with you on that. But I don't want this passed as an emergency. As I've said, that's been my big thing. I don't like legislation being passed as an emergency if it does not need to. And we are getting down to the crunch time. So if we would if we would have our first reading on May the 7th, we would have our second reading on May 21st, our third reading would be on June 4th, and then on July 5th, which would be 30 days after the June 4th, then that legislation would become law. So we are within that 1 year time because the festival is, yeah.
So we need to send a registered letter. Go ahead.
Your other option
Okay.
would be to request said legislation now, because you could repeal that and continue to provide services on an ongoing basis. But if you repealed 2018-2021, that would incentivize the Bratwurst Festival to come in here and work with us to look at what their books are so that council understands what their financial need is and what our financial need is. And there's nothing, even if you repeal that, that's basically saying that, okay, it's no longer permanent, but we're going to review it on a yearly basis. That could start the ball at this point, if that's what we're doing. And that would give them a impetus to come work with us, because I think that, as Ms. Dishon says, we don't know what we don't know, and I don't think I won't speak for you, but I don't think that anybody wants the Bratwurst Festival to become bankrupt and go belly up in the city not to have it, but we would also not like to continue to expend valuable city resources without having an understanding of the financial position of that organization or that entity. And there's nothing that would say that we can't repeal 2018-2021 at this point and continue to provide safety forces and street sweeping services, or I just called it the wrong thing, at a gratuitous rate on the city's behalf on a yearly basis, even if that ordinance has been repealed. So you can continue the status quo, but have it reviewed annually. I think that's but you could go that route as well. That would speed up the process, and they would either give us the records, or that way you guys would be able to make a decision based upon the fact that we don't know what their circumstances is, so we're just going to do a best guess.
So we need a resolution.
Yeah, I mean,
You're going to take second house, go say.
Perfect timing.
Need a resolution to repeal 218-2021.
Yeah.
Aaron, if you have something to say, would you like to come to the podium rather than mumbling back there? Excuse
I
me?
thought you just said that you were doing that after you found out what was going on. The whole April 12th.
No, this 2/18/2021 is going to go away. We're not going to have a permanent agreement anymore.
So we're going to do it year by year. So do I have a motion to repeal 2/18/2021?
I'll make that motion.
And I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now I'm going to ask a question. Did you do that as an emergency or a non-emergency?
No.
No.
You did it as a non-emergency?
Yes.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. B, you're voting in favor of repealing?
Yes.
Okay. We have to get 3 votes.
Three
to get
votes,
it out of
yeah.
committee.
3 votes.
Just for the record, I get it.
For the record.
And you're not going to ask for nay because it was unanimous 3.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the record.
I get it.
Okay, so in the meantime, we're going to have legislation, non-emergency, to repeal. Are we then sending this certified letter
I would still like to send it because I never got a response to that question.
Well, and yes, I'm saying, you know what? We'll give you one more chance. I mean,
No.
how many times do we have to ask for financials and to be totally ignored?
Okay, now, hold
That's
on.
what bothers me.
Send it to their lawyers, don't send it to
And who
them.
is
Or you
the
send it to
lawyer?
them and then they take it to their lawyers.
So, the Bucyrus Bratwurst Festival has a statutory agent, and I'll get you who that is, but there's somebody that is their service of process acceptor, somebody that you have to serve. So that's who we should serve. I'm not sure who it is right now, but that's who we would serve with the certified mail.
All right, I just
Saying
want to
that-
make sure it's
yeah.
done right, so.
Is
Now,
there,
my
is
concern-
there a reason why it can't go to them and it has to go to their lawyer? It could go both.
Oh, you can send it to everybody, but no, just for legal purposes, if you serve their statutory agent, service has been perfected at that point.
And here's what else I'm gonna put in that letter. I want the financials back to before we started giving them the money, to see what they looked like then, and then all the years since. I don't just want like the last years.
Yeah.
And I don't like, and I just want to say this too.
Hold on.
The director of the festival made some comment about, oh, well, we'll bring in James and we'll bring in Mrs. Dishon and they can look at them. No, I don't want our finance committee members going there and seeing them. I want these financials released publicly. You know, if they email them to us, it's a public record. So therefore, all the citizens of Bucyrus can get to look through them and decide if they really need that money. Nothing against you, Vicki, nothing against you, Jane, but I don't want like 3 people in secret to be looking at these records and then coming back to this committee and saying, oh yeah, it's good, they need the money. I want to see them too.
Carolyn?
And I got people emailing me wanting to see them too, or messaging me on Facebook and stuff.
Carolyn Shireman, 1065, I'd like to see him too. Okay, Kurt, I'd like to say something with what you just said. I talked to Deb Mason 3 days ago, and Deb Mason told me when she was the director of the Bratwurst Festival, they never at one time asked the city for the safety forces. The Bratwurst Festival, paid them. And one of the quotes that she gave me was $24,000. She said in the years that she directed the Bratwurst Festival, they always paid the city for the safety forces and the garbage.
Does this say anything about ODOT posting signs?
No.
ODOT no longer requires that. They
Oh,
did
no.
before, but I think it was 2015, and one paper that I do not have with me, notes that were taken, it stated that ODOT no longer charged to put up their signs.
Okay.
Also, she said that she does not understand why the Bratwurst Festival will not show their financial records.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Figure what out?
Why they won't show them.
Also,
We'll figure it out.
I'm done?
I don't know, are you?
Well, I don't know.
You have anything else to say?
Evidently not. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Now, if we send this letter certified, my concern is, certified mail takes a little time, and
I think it's the same amount of time as if you just dropped a piece of letter in the mail. I don't think it's gonna take, they have to knock on the door,
And sign for it.
and if they're not there, then they put a little thing there that says, there's something waiting for you at the post office, so then they would have to go up there to get it and sign for it then.
Okay.
I could certify it to the lawyer, the festival,
office and a director of the festival.
Yeah, but I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, I know certified letters are not that much, but why should we allow the Bratwurst Festival to make the city incur postage, certified mailing costs, because they're not?
I'll donate the postage, Vicki.
Well, and I think, I don't know what the letter, but my point, I thought the certified letter was saying that we intend to modify the current agreement. Because we have to give them a year's notice of
Well,
that.
you could in that letter, but also we want to give them a deadline of, hey,
Right.
we would like to see your financials by April the 12th. I think that was the date that I mentioned. And if we don't have them if we don't have the financials by April the 12th, or if we do have them by April 12th, either way, I feel at the next committee meeting on April the 18th, a decision needs to be made on whether the city is no longer going to pay for safety forces and cleanup, or the city's going to agree to something, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Carolyn Shireman, Mr. Garner, in a certified letter, don't they have to sign to get it?
Green card.
According to the post office regulations.
So
yeah.
we would be better off to send them a certified for them to sign to show that they got it.
It's the same way that the courts
Yeah.
show proof that
Right.
something from them has been delivered, because it's, you can't like send them something and then they can say, oh, I never got it. Well, yeah, you did get it because you signed for it, right here's your signature, and it
Okay,
stays.
so what happens if there's no one there to sign
Then
for
I
it?
just explained that. I said then they put a little yellow thing in your mailbox that
Right,
says
but
there's
what if
something
they
waiting for you.
ignore that?
Eventually it will come back to us as unclaimed.
And then we can legally proceed with.
Well, then we would be able to legally say, hey, we sent them something and they
Right.
didn't even accept it, so then it even looks more bad on them that
Well, I'm
they're
just,
avoiding it.
trying to cover all of our end on
This-
if they don't sign and get it.
Well, and it'll be registered, right? So it'll have the little tracking number, so we'll know that it has been delivered and unclaimed.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we
So just to clarify, the wording of this letter, I should state in it that we are informing you that we are initiating possible repeal of 218-2021 in the letter, and then that would legally suffice the.
Well, according to Resolution 218-2021, it just says to give the festival a one-year advanced notice of change to the agreement. Well, there's going to be a change to the agreement, so I don't think you have to reference the resolution.
Okay.
We're talking about the permanent agreement, so we're letting them know that there is going to be a change to the agreement. We don't have to state what that change is, just that
Right,
there's going to be a
right,
change.
Right. And I just want to say, we're not going after the festival just to go after the festival here. There's a money situation where the city's running out of money, and, how do we give them this free $15,000 to $20,000 worth of services in one hand, and then in the other hand, we're asking for donations to keep the pool open. I mean, it's like that money's just going to them indirectly. So Kevin, the director of the festival, came up there once and he said, well, if whatever you do to us, you need to do to everybody. And I'm not so sure we shouldn't start looking into all the other, if you're going to request a permit to shut down Sandusky Avenue, maybe all services incurred by the city needs to be paid with all those permits. It doesn't matter if it's this thing or that thing. The festival, the reason the festival is so high is because it goes overnight and it goes multiple days. But some of these other little things, it might not be that significant for them to pay also, because here's my concern. If we let the festival ride free, what's to say that some other organization decides, because they have some issue that they're promoting, or like a social justice thing or something, that they're just going to convene their entire mass of people to little old Bucyrus, Ohio, and they're gonna pull a parade permit, and it just cause us all sorts of resources expended out to accommodate that permit. I almost think if we don't charge the festival, we're opening ourselves up to them saying, well, if you're gonna charge us, and we got such and such social justice issue, you're discriminating against us. So what, I'm gonna take the director's own words, Kevin's, and say what's good for one's good for all. Maybe we need to start charging all of them.
Okay.
I have a suggestion. I do believe that the city should give the Bratwurst Festival something. But I also think that...
And then ask for pool donations right in the other hand.
No, listen, let me finish first, okay? Well, I'd be good with not giving them anything, but then they'll come back on us and say, we're not supporting the Bratwurst Festival. It's bad your city doesn't support the festival. So what I was thinking is, if we get nothing back from the Bratwurst Festival on the financial records, I still say that the city should sponsor them with something to show that we are backing the festival and nobody can come back on us for that.
We put stuff in the parade. We got.
I know, but I'm saying we could sponsor them with a $5,000. Just a flat $5,000.
I don't think, Carolyn, I don't think you could do a sponsorship of
But
city
what-
tax dollars. We would just
Well, how else
take
would
care
you
of,
revert, would you?
we would take care of paying a portion of the safety forces.
Up to $5,000. Up to. And that way, we could pay $5,000 towards the Bratwurst Festival safety forces, and still, they can't say the city didn't do nothing for them for the Bratwurst Festival. We would cover that at a lower amount than they want, but I wouldn't do no more than $5,000.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any?
done?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
thank you. Do we have any open projects? Let's move on.
Jim, if I just may say one more thing.
Okay.
I want to make sure this letter that you're sending, you're putting in there that there's going to be a change to the permanent agreement. And then you're also giving them an April 12th deadline to release their financials to the
Just-
city.
Just send it to all of us while you're at it.
Send what?
The letter, copy of the
Okay,
letter.
I just want to make sure what he's putting in the letter, that it covers.
I'll even go as far as to having the law director review the letter prior to it getting sent.
That'd probably be a good idea.
And that will go out tomorrow, correct?
I'd really like to get it out tomorrow. I really want to. Are you gonna be in tomorrow, Brian? You gonna be in tomorrow?
This is Mr. Fankhauser.
Yeah, I think between Brian and me, we can get that letter out tomorrow.
I will be in for 2 hours. We can do it in the morning.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, I think between Brian and me, we can get that letter out tomorrow.
Well, I mean, April 12th is next Friday.
I know,
Okay.
that's what I'm.
I have one comment to Kurt, please.
Go ahead.
I want to thank you for your donation for the mail, funding the certified letter.
It's probably less than $10.
It doesn't matter, but no one else said any, so thank you, Kurt.
Is that it on that subject? Anybody else? Now we're moving on to open projects. Chris, you got anything?
No, I don't.
Vicki?
No, thank you.
Nothing on open projects. Public participation. Meeting adjourned at 8:00.